Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Fertility Confidence Podcast. Thank you so much for hitting play today. We are going to answer a question that I've been getting asked many, many times, and I don't blame you. Is oral or vaginal progesterone better? We're seeing a change. I am at least seeing a change with how clinics are approaching progesterone support in the luteal phase of IUIs and even in IVF. We're still seeing a lot of progesterone in oil, I feel, injection progesterone in IVF, but we're starting to see this swing more towards oral versus vaginal. And even when I started using progesterone 6, 7, 8 years ago, however long, oh, time is passing. It was only vaginal. We never really talked about oral. Whenever I took CE and continuing ed and training and digging into bioidentical hormone therapy, it was always vaginal support and fertility. That's always what I pushed. It's what I prescribed. It's what I helped my clients advocate for when they were working with REs and OBGYNs. And slowly over the last year, we've been seeing this switch. And as with any change, it comes with some resistance, right? Because as a woman who's struggling with infertility, who's dealing with recurrent miscarriage, who's going through the IUI or IVF process, you are obviously doing your research. I feel very confident saying that you've probably been reading up on the process in other Facebook groups, on Reddit, watching TikToks and on Instagram and seeing what other women in the community are doing and then comparing your treatment plan to theirs. I don't love that for you personally, but I get it, okay? And like a little asterisk to that is what worked for one woman might not work for you. So just blindly following their protocol is not the vibe, okay? Is not the vibe. But when we bring it back to oral versus vaginal progesterone, we always get a lot of questions from our clients inside Fertility Confidence Method around what is best. Their doctors may be prescribing oral and they're coming to us worried because everyone that they've talked to in FCM are using vaginal and they're wondering if they're getting the best quality care, or vice versa. They're getting vaginal and they have a friend who got oral and they're like, what the heck? Why is it different? So I wanted to share with you a little bit of information and some studies that we've been pulling for our clients to just help them feel more confident. I believe at the end of the day, now what I am doing and prescribing and using with our clients is either or is fine. So if you don't want to do vaginal because it's kind of annoying, first and foremost, we now have another option that works just as well. Yay. Or if you feel more comfortable, because I really do believe most clinics have more experience with vaginal. They're just simply using vaginal because that is what they are comfortable with. There is some benefit to continuing with an approach that has a hell of a lot of clinical experience and positive outcomes behind it and is still supported by research. So yes, we're seeing more oral progesterone being touted in the research as beneficial, but that's not negating the fact that vaginal progesterone still works really well. Where this is coming from is today. So every Sunday, PubMed, which is the for research mecca of the world, so not just fertility research, all of the researches. Every Sunday, PubMed sends me a slew of research articles that I have asked for based on specific keywords in the infertility space. So on Sundays and Mondays, I sit down with my coffee and I go through the research. That is what I do because that is how I support my clients. We are very research focused and research driven. So it's my job and my professional and personal opinion to stay on top of what is out there. And something caught my eye this morning, and it was a study that was just released in a very high infertility research journal. And it was about the effect of progesterone supplementation for luteal phase support in natural FETs. And I love when we see comparing, and I love when we see, FET versus fresh transfer versus IUI versus whatever, because it helps to just solidify what we're looking at. The reality is the majority of our fertility research is done in IVF studies in cases. So if you're not there yet, we still have to borrow from that research. So when we can see a wide variety of different styles of fertility treatment, it's really helpful to help make better clinical decisions. So it was a decently sized study, over 1,000 participants, not too terrible. And they looked at comparing oral versus, was it oral versus vaginal? I think it was oral versus vaginal, but I actually can't remember off the top of my head. And they looked at live birth rate. So we always want to look at studies that look at live birth rate. It's one thing to get you pregnant, but are we actually maintaining pregnancy? That's really important. So we want to look at that piece. And what they actually found is that progesterone supplementation in that luteal phase with FETs increased live birth rate in clients. And they compared oral versus vaginal, and they did say it looks to be about the same. We need more research. That's kind of how everything always ends. Like, it looks decent. We need more research. So you want to start tracking your BBT, but all of the rules feel maybe just a little bit difficult. Or maybe you've actually already tried your oral BBT tracking and you are constantly forgetting to take your temperature. Your charts are super hard to interpret because your temps are all over the place, and you're feeling like maybe this is actually adding stress into your journey. I felt the exact same way when I started using BBT tracking for my own fertility journey, and I actually remember when my partner and I went backwoods camping, and he could not stop laughing because I still packed my little pink thermometer in my backpack, but I was super dedicated, so dedicated that it actually started to impact my sleep. So when I heard about Temp Drop, I was instantly curious, and after over 2 years of using the device personally, I will never pick up an oral BBT thermometer again. Temp Drop is a wearable arm device that continuously tracks your temperature during your sleep and provides you with the most accurate basal body temperature through its advanced sensors and sophisticated algorithms. No more waking up at the same time every morning. No more worrying about waking up in the night. No more forgotten temps messing with your chart. Temp Drop literally eliminates all of the complicated rules of oral BBT temping and lets you have an accurate fertility tracker without all of the added stress. Temp Drop can be used if you're a restless sleeper, a night shift worker, have long or irregular cycles, or maybe you're up nursing or up with your kids and still actually have the peace of mind that the data is being collected. I am obsessed with my Temp Drop and how easy it is to chart my cycle now. So I am super thrilled to offer you guys, my podcast community, a 12% discount on your Temp Drop device using the code KelseyTD. And you can combine this with any current promotion that the company is having. So I like that we now have this option and we're starting to see this coming out more and more. So this is a brand new study. We also have, where's my next new one? 2021. They looked at oral versus vaginal micronized progesterone for treatment of threatened miscarriage. So women who were having recurrent pregnancy loss or women who were dealing with vaginal bleeding in early pregnancy. And they did find that progesterone support period actually reduced miscarriage rates in these women who were having vaginal bleeding. And they also found that oral actually might have been better in this study than vaginal. Interesting. When you look at the actual percentage changes, it was statistically significant, but the difference wasn't massive. So either or could still be good, but we have this oral option now that when we're having what we call threatened miscarriage, so bleeding in early pregnancy, that actually not only stop the bleeding, but increase live birth rate. We love that for us. Another study done in 2018 looked at oral versus vaginal progesterone and again found very similar results for live birth rates and reduced miscarriage rates. And they also said oral is a viable option. We can absolutely use oral. The side effect profile is the same. It's very well tolerated. And in fact, it might actually be preferred by clients because it's not vaginal. So there's not that little bit of extra unnecessary discomfort that some people might feel with using a vaginal gel, cream, or suppository. But basically looked at saying, and this was done in a fresh cycle IVF actually, so a fresh transfer, basically saying the same. We're seeing the same results. So at the end of the day, when we're making progesterone prescriptions, when you're advocating, yes, you probably hear more about vaginal progesterone. It's definitely, in my experience at least, been used more abundantly in the fertility world. I 100%, even just a couple years ago, was like, no, you need vaginal, really pushing that. And now we're seeing some more confirmation coming out in the research saying, actually, oral's just as good. And if anything, oral is probably more preferred from our clients. So let's try to make the experience as comfy, cozy, easy peasy as possible. And oral's likely that, but you can't go wrong. So if you have oral and you're stressed that it's not vaginal and everyone you know is using vaginal, you do not need to be stressed about that. If you have vaginal progesterone, or if that's what you've advocated for and you're like, oh shit, should I switch to oral? You don't have to. The vaginal still works. We still get good results with that. If you want to, the option is there for you. So oral, vaginal progesterone, both are good. We definitely want to be using both in IUI and IVF cycles, or not both together, but we want to be using one or the other. We also want to be seeing this with clients who had a history of miscarriage or who are dealing with early vaginal bleeding. Progesterone support in the luteal phase can also help reduce the bleeding and size and risk of subchorionic hematomas, which is basically like a uterine bruise. So if that's something that you've had a history of previously, this also might be a piece you want to advocate for in upcoming pregnancies. But hopefully that helps either ease some stress that you might be feeling or helps you actually walk into your next appointment advocating and armed with a tool or a resource to get you some treatment that you might need. That's it for today. It was all about progesterone, quick and dirty, and I will see you guys in the next one.